So here is our sweet and salty cactus painting. I'm getting the transfer all set up. So I've got our tabs, our labels at hinges, the outline on there. I've inverted the carbon paper so that it's sticky on both sides. And it's transferring on both sides, and I've started tracing. And remember, this is a rough trace. This is just to get the lay of the land. It's not very precise if you look at my lines. And the reason I'm using blue ink is because the outlines are gray so you can see where you've been. So keep that in mind. And now we're looking at the graphite rendering of the tracing. And I've still got my image tinged above it. And I've just mixed up some light blue paint. So that's just the cerulean we're working with this week. And some white. And I'm just putting it in and I'm keeping it really wet because I'm going to go back in with a little bit of a more pigmented blue in a minute here. So just putting that in around the tops of our clouds. Dropping a little more blue into that mixture right there. Mixing it up. And then that's just kind of a wet on wet right where it transitions right there. Just blend that. So we lost a video in between, but there are, I painted in the clouds with first a pink tone first, the green, which is our viridian, and a little bit of the cerulean. And then I mixed the cerulean with the rose, and the clouds I did in the same technique that I'm working on these hills, where I put a medium pink down first, and then mixed a lighter green and a little bit of a darker green on top of them. And you're going to see the same technique right here in these mountains, where we've got more of a vibrant violet that we're mixing in our lighter tone and our darker tone with a wet on wet technique. So wet paint on wet paint, and then I took a more dry brush and blended it. So now we're working on our front cactus in the foreground, and it's right now just with the straight up cerulean. And I'm just kind of blocking that in there. I'm going right over a lot of these lines because my drawing's up there if I need it again. And then I've got this lighter tone that I'm coming in with, and I'm going to do some blending. And then I really want those darker areas to be really dense, so I'm dropping some paint right in those areas. Now I'm going to have some excess, and I'll show you how that looks. But I didn't want to have to do too many coats, so I'm going right over it with straight up cerulean that I just dropped right in. And as you can see, there's a little too much, so I'm kind of taking some of that off with my brush reductively. But I'm getting those really rich, concentrated blue tones. Taking some of it off, and then I'm just going to kind of blend that. All right, so this is a mixture right here that I'm dropping in this line of what I call a gray that I created by making by complements. And so that is a mixture of the rose, equal parts rose and viridian. That's a very natural way to make a black or a gray. So it's not a straight up black, but it's definitely a gray tone. But no black or white was actually used. And so we're filling in some of the darker parts. Okay, so this is a little bit of that gray tone that we created with the viridian and rose that I'm dropping into our hill color that was left over, and I'm adding a little more viridian to that to make this kind of forest green. I love that color. So I make sure I have enough of that, and I'm going to pull a similar line top to bottom, nice and wet, where I get that clean line on the edge. And that's kind of our medium tone. So that's in all the places that sort of middle medium tone is. Then we're dropping in our light side of the cactus, and that's just viridian and white. And that's going to fill in the whole thing, and then I'm tracing a thin, kind of a hairline on the right side of the cactus to be our reflected light. on the other side of our complement created gray. Doing that on the little cactus as well, so pulling a heavier line weight on the left side and this kind of thin hairline on the right side. This came out a little blurry, but on just our highlight side, I'm putting in straight up white. And that's just going on the left side of our Viridian and white mixture. Making sure that is thick and heavy. Comes all the way down. So we're this far, and I also, you didn't see it, but I outlined our cactus with the white in the front, and now we're filling in our cactus blossoms, and that is with our base color for the clouds that we put down. So we didn't have to remix that. Now I'm going in with some pretty straight up rose. It might have a little bit of white in it if it's because we were mixing clouds before. But that's our rose color. That's adding a little bit of definition. And then this is our same red and rose, or rose and Viridian gray that's getting popped into there. All right, so we finished our blossoms, and I either retransferred or just kind of eyeballed, however you want to do it, where our pricklies are going in our foreground blue cactus. And I kind of blotted them in just to get a positioning the first time. And I'm going back in now and making them more opaque. I'm also hitting the centers, and we're all done.